The world needs design more now than ever.
Hello and welcome to the Why Design podcast. I'm your host, Chris White, and in this series, we explore the career journeys of design and engineering leaders from the world of physical product development. And for the final episode of this series, I'm joined by Dan Harden, founder and CEO of Whipsaw. If you don't know Whipsaw, you've almost certainly used one of their designs. They've shipped over 1,000 products, hold hundreds of patents, and their work has won more than 350 design awards. In this episode, Dan shares the lessons he learned working with icons like George Nelson, Henry Dreyfuss, and Steve Jobs, why the best design demands both obsession and humility, and how Whipsaw has stayed relevant for 26 years by pushing boundaries while keeping design deeply human. It's a conversation packed with perspective from one of the most influential design leaders of the last 3 decades. So let's get into it. So Dan Harden, welcome to Why Design. Finally, we're sitting down to record. It's great to see you. So you're in San Francisco. I'm in New York right now. So time zones aren't too bad for a change. But
No, not at all.
Yeah, really good
I'm glad we were able
down.
to finally do this, Chris.
Yeah, it feels like a long time coming. So yeah, we met for the first time at CES. So Anne was fantastic in kind of arranging that and getting us to sit down and have lunch. And just that hour or so that we spent together in the story store, I've got to get Dan on the podcast. So it's great to have you. So you're the founder and CEO of Whipsaw, San Francisco-based powerhouse, responsible for more than 1,000 products, 700 patents, and over 350 design awards. I prepared this a few weeks ago, so maybe that's those numbers have gone up since then.
So far, so good. We're what you mean by powerhouse? We're not a utility company. We're a design.
Yeah, absolutely, design firm. Yeah. You've been described as design's secret weapon by Fast Company, and you've been named as one of the 100 most creative people in business, which is a pretty cool accolade. Your work is in the Smithsonian and the Henry Ford Museum. And as a leader, you've steered Whipsaw through decades of creative and commercial impact, blending strategy, innovation, and aesthetics to build truly meaningful products. Don't worry, this is the most cringy bit of the podcast. We'll get into the conversation soon. But,
Sure.
But before you started Whipsaw back in the late 90s, you held senior roles at Frog Design, Henry Dreyfuss Associates, and you worked directly with George Nelson. From medical devices and robotics to furniture and wearables, your portfolio kind of reads like a greatest hits of design over the last 30 or so years. And today, your company Whipsaw is known for its cross-disciplinary thinking, its culture of sunrise innovation, and its mission to create design that is beautiful, functional, responsible, and most importantly, human. So how was that as an intro?
That was beautiful. I'm guessing you had a little chat GPT help on that.
You shouldn't tell people my secrets, but yes. And you know what? We didn't rehearse that either. Usually I do a few takes of where I just kind of trip over my own words. But
no, it was very comprehensive. Thank you for that. And it sounds like a lot of accomplishments, which I suppose it is. But at the end of the day, what really matters to me is doing the work and striving to just make as thoughtful a contribution to society as possible through this medium we call design. And when you do this consistently over, like you said, decades, when I look back at that, it's like, Jesus, we have done a lot of work, and that's fulfilling. But it's often it's the work that we're doing now that always excites me, because present moments mean everything in one's life, right? So. But yeah, thank you. That was great. I don't really have anything to add to that.
Not at all. I think a running theme through kind of recording this podcast, and I guess they felt that it is like a look back through the career, and it's quite cathartic in some ways to kind of look back. Quite often people are so fixated in the now and looking forward that they don't take time to reflect. It sounds like you do kind of take stock and you do reflect fairly frequently.
I think it's important to just consider. I think even in every design project, context is so meaningful, and historical context means a lot. When looking at, innovating for potential clients, you always want to know, like, what have they done? What are the issues that they have faced? What's worked in the past? What hasn't?
Mhm.
What are the competitors doing? How has culture maybe been formed partly by whatever they've done in the past? So yeah, I think reflection is an important part of the design
Absolutely.
process.
Well, let's do a little bit more reflection now, then, Dan. So I always open the episode with the name of the podcast, Why Design. So how did you get into design? Do you remember the moment where you knew you wanted to be a designer?
Oh yeah, I remember this quite well. A lot of industrial designers have a similar kind of story. For example, like when I was a kid, I could draw, I could paint, and I could see things that maybe my friends couldn't. I also like to make stuff. I made a lot of things like go-karts and mini bikes, and attempted to make a helicopter with plywood and lawnmower motors. And
Did it take
my
off?
go-karts, I couldn't get off the ground with that, but my go-karts were very fast and dangerous. So by the time I graduated from high school and applied to different design schools, I came in with art and an interest in engineering. And that crossover between these two disciplines is industrial design. And then I had my first internship at Richardson Smith, which was the leading firm in the United States at the time. They ended up being purchased by Fitch in
Right. Okay.
it was like the 80s or 90s, maybe. I think early 90s. Uh, that just ignited something within me that was, to this day, I remember it so well. It was just an absolute, talk about a catharsis, man. It just lit me up. It's like, man, I can do this. I'm going to be great at it. I love doing it. The act of designing felt natural to me.
Hmm.
And from that day on, it was just up, 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 and go, go, go. And to this day, that passion I feel for my profession remains. And sometimes I feel even more passionate about design than ever. It doesn't have, one's passion does not have to wane as you age. It can stay very strong, but it's important to keep finding new sources of inspiration.
Yeah.
Keep turning yourself on by finding new ways of viewing the world, people, how they interact with one another. Find your inspiration in new places. Always stay
Hmm.
awake and alive. And yeah, it's really, that's, I guess, how I started my career, with that
When
foundation.
you when you look back over the years, you clearly kind of the passion oozes from you. But what's kept you excited about the craft all these years, and has your why changed in that time?
Has my why changed? It's become more nuanced, a lot more nuanced. Yeah, speaking of science, I think design, there should be a sense of urgency when you are solving problems. I think you have to feel that they even sometimes like an emergency, especially when you look at like what's happening to the planet and how designers can make an impact. There should be an urgency, and that's related to the why. I see so many annoying problems in our world. Everybody senses this when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night. There are annoying little things in our world, right? And a lot of them can be mitigated or even solved with just a different way of thinking about a problem and a solution. Um, in the earlier part of my career, I think I was more focused on believing that design was primarily about creating beautiful objects that solved a problem and made a statement while they did it. But I think nowadays, my feeling about design has evolved quite a bit. I love the fact that it's now almost as much of an action
Mm.
as it is a result. It's much more social. It's more collaborative. It's more team based. You need to take in so many different viewpoints, and understand different disciplines in order to actualize your design.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all the tools have changed, right? There was a time when I was dreaming that it would be really cool if you could take your sketch and like somehow magically send it across the world. And then there was a fax machine.
Yeah.
And wow, how cool was that? And then we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if you could just like take your computer content and actually make a model directly from it? Now 3D printing. So the tools have changed. It's gotten, a lot easier to
Mm.
move faster through a design process. And now, of course, with AI,
Yeah, you
everything's
can take
changing
that
yet
sketch
again.
and throw it at a computer, and it comes up with something that kind of looks like what your imagination had.
Yeah. So, but as those tools changed, a lot of things in design have not changed. The way I feel
Mm.
about design, the way that I interpret the end users' feeling towards brands or how they interact with physical things. There are fundamentals about design that haven't changed, and the way that I personally do design hasn't changed that much. I still like to be, I guess you could say, I like the rudiments of design. I like these moments when you are just being with the problem, you're observing, just silently observing, watching an end user deal with whatever their condition is. And then you, as a designer, imagine something else, imagine an alternative, and begin to maybe sketch, maybe write a note to yourself about an observation you've made that could be the underpinnings of a new kind of insight about the way to solve a problem. And, I could be I could be in anywhere and just get some kind of strange inspiration. I often
Mm.
sketch on airplanes. I don't particularly love flying, so when we just start shaking, I get out my sketchbook and it relaxes me. It's a go-to. So that's
Yeah.
what I mean by like the rudiments of design, just getting to the real source. I try not to get too carried away with too much technology. I think
Mm-hmm.
that can sidetrack your thinking. Just staying very real with what design can offer and the way that you go about solving the design problem. I think you have to be very grounded, very real,
Mm.
and never lose your sense of wonder and curiosity. It's all related to being inspired. And when you are in this inspired state is when you're going to be doing your best work. That's when
Absolutely.
you're innovating.
That's wonderful.
And by the
So,
way, when you are in that state of inspiration, to be able to extend that to others, to be so open with whatever your uh, whatever your inspired state is, however you express it, whatever your own personal like inspiration medium is, I think it's important to socialize that because you can't
absolutely.
do it all yourself. There are people that have to help, and that's how design has changed, I think, as well. There's just more people involved. It's more complex in so many different ways. Marketing is involved more in engineering,
Mm-hmm.
but point being that the enthusiasm I have found that even my own enthusiasm for design, when you are when you openly share it, it's infectious.
Mm.
And I love it when I see a relatively stale engineering group at a client, that
Yeah.
doesn't really, they're not that excited about their product or whatever. To watch what happens when you can inspire them with a vision, it's really extraordinary.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it is infectious, isn't it? Being in um, that creative place, and the questions that are asked, and the thoughtfulness that's kind of inspired by those questions and the problem solving. I was telling you earlier, I spent some time with Sprout Studios in Boston last week, and I was lucky enough or privileged to be invited into a kickoff meeting with one of their clients, and that was fascinating to be I wouldn't even say a fly on the wall, because they actively involved me in the discussion. The client was at the table. We had some of the team dialing in remotely, and we are talking about this rebranding exercise. I obviously won't go into the details, but it was a food based company, so they brought some samples of the food, and we're talking about packaging, and it, even as the non-designer, being at that table, you can't help but like just get sucked in and ask questions.
Yeah.
And and it felt in some small kind of way I contributed as well, like, because it was infectious, and it didn't feel like, oh, who's this outsider, kind of the non-designer asking questions. It's like, it's just another person
Yeah.
observing. So I think I've heard that from other consultants as well. Sometimes when you bring in the non-designers, like the IT or the marketing, or the engineers, to get their viewpoint, it stops you getting, just going the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think viewpoints are very interesting. I mean, it's one of
Mm.
the things about just research. Everybody has an opinion, especially about
Yeah.
food and food packaging. We grow up with these experiences. So one's opinions really matter. I think it's up to the designers to have the listening skills and the observation skills to actually make something better of it. And I mean, that's the key. I
Mm.
think one of the keys to design is to just be a really good listener. Just, there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than a designer that says, I know the best way forward. This is what's best for you. And it's one thing if they're right all the time, but usually you're not. You have to you have to fail a lot. I think somebody recently asked me, well, what if you guys failed? Can you talk about failure and your process? I'm like, man, every single project we fail. If you
Mhm.
look at what we produce on one project through experimentation, through concept development, we may look at, 30 or 40 different alternative solutions. Well, guess what? 99% of them fail. One of them
Mhm.
goes to market, but the failures are what help to guide you to the right solution. And it's not because we are paid to just experiment and just try a bunch of different things. It's you have to learn from these trials and errors,
Mhm.
and you find your edge conditions, whether that is too big, too small, too expensive, not expensive enough, and all these different criteria you have to weigh and measure and learn from. Sometimes we like to show clients a solution to demonstrate what they should not do,
Mhm.
and then they might even file IP for it, just so they've got a defensive portfolio as they enter a market.
Yeah.
Um, But if you get back to your question, um, has the why changed? I think for me, the why has become more important because the world needs design more now than ever.
Mhm.
When I look at the mess that this world is in, and I mean the list is long. We all know what they are. The climate change, the ridiculous politics, economies that don't really work, a misunderstanding about how products are made, where they should be made,
Mhm.
how they're designed. There's just misunderstanding everywhere. And I think a lack of general consumer fulfillment. I see a lot of unhappy people. Also, the over consumer the consumerism that I see in our world. It's just the way that people are consuming design products is kind of alarming to me. The way that they will buy a design, use it for a month or two, and then it's discarded or it's put in the
Yeah.
shelf. And they get another one. It's like where's the meaning in that? I think the why do this? It's like I'm even more dedicated to helping companies produce products that really do make a difference and that are as timeless as possible. that are as smart as possible, whether that is, it's the way something is made with the least amount of energy or a better material, but do something good. I mean,
Mhm.
I think there's more of an urgency now to do good things than ever. And I think the world is in a place now where the type of sensitivities or compassion that designers bring forward kind of naturally. Designers are normally very good at feeling a sense of empathy about
Mhm.
people. That's often why some designers are industrial designers, because they want to help people in some way.
Yeah.
They want to improve lives. I feel that way. And it's not just being over altruistic. It's really such a joy uh, um, when you can actually create something of meaning that is it's benefiting people in so many different ways. But point being, the world needs more of that now more
Yeah.
than ever.
We could all do better by being more empathetic, and it's certainly a theme that you know was talked about a lot last night at the DMI event I went to at Lixil. We talk about data bias and designing to outdated standards that haven't been updated in decades. But the overarching theme was designers want to do better. They're empathetic. They want to make the world a better place through great design, whether it be physical or digital or experience design. Well, wonderful. Well, let's talk about Whipsaw. So you earlier on in your career, you led teams at Frog. You worked under Dreyfus and Nelson, and then started Whipsaw in '99, I think. You know, but before we get into the launch of Whipsaw, what were if you could think back to some of the pivotal moments or defining moments of your time at Frog and working with Dreyfus and Nelson, that you think back on that, oh yeah, like I say, were pivotal to then you starting Whipsaw.
Yeah, I have had a pretty amazing career, and I've been very lucky in the people that I've been able to meet
Mm-hmm.
and work with. So I think let's see, the most pivotal. Well, one was that first relationship I built with actually the founder of Richardson Smith, Dean Richardson. I was just a
Mm-hmm.
kid. My God, I was 19 years old when I had my first internship, and he liked me, and I liked him, and I watched how he was able to sell design. I'd watch him give a pitch. I was like, oh my God, he is so articulate, so good. And he actually took me down to this meeting at NCR, National Cash Register. I
Yeah.
drove the truck full of hard models down to this meeting in Florida. And before the meeting, he came up to me. And by the way, I was the only designer he took down there. Now I worked on the projects, but
Wow.
I still to this day I don't understand, like, why did he take the intern with him? And it wasn't just to carry his models, although I did carry the models. But he whispered to me, he goes, all the engineers at NCR pretty much hate us right now, but watch what I'm going to do. And I was super curious. And, I'm at dinner with him, my boss, and all these engineers from NCR. And I watched him take kind of an aggravated team of engineers that didn't want to produce this stuff. They weren't into the design. They weren't really listening, or maybe they thought it was just too much trouble. And the way that he turned this situation around, just using, his skills, his very persuasive skills, and talking about why this design solution was going to be good for them and why it's not going to be so difficult to engineer. And he knew his
Mhm.
stuff. That was an inspiration. I'd say that was impactful. Working with George Nelson was impactful in that he kind of shocked me in his real world approach. He was pretty negative about society and
Mhm.
clients. He was at the end of his career. He was kind of tired of doing this. And he just alarmed me to say, yes, I like your passion, Dan, but look at all the crap. Literally, he used that word when we were standing in the bathroom on the floor where overlooking Gramercy Park on the 18th floor. And you look at this city, look at all this crap, look at the pollution we're making, look at all the junk that's being sold at Bloomingdale's and Macy's. And I just, I was like, wait a minute, I thought you were an industrial designer. So I was taken aback by his almost acerbic kind of attitude
Cynicism.
about the world.
Yeah.
But it was a good impact. It was a good thing
Yeah.
for me to hear. It's a really good thing for me to hear. Life I learned so much about how to build a business, or simply by learning how to write proposals, how to strategize a design program, and then present to major companies like Polaroid, AT&T, John Deere. These are great clients. It was just me being thrown into the world of consulting.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to build a great portfolio there, and then join Frog, where it was just like getting in a high-speed elevator. Just incredible experiences from day one. Just bam, you're going to be working with Steve Jobs and the founder of Logitech, the founder of Sun, and make it all happen. And it was just a talk about an impact. Oh my God, it was so exciting. That was, prior to founding Whipsaw, that was the most exciting job I've ever had. It was, and it helped to form who I am. That philosophy at Frog that was so design forward.
Mm.
It was they had a kind of a company ethos that became well known, and that was kind of gutsy design, gutsy business practices where they were being very convincing, even to the point of being pushy. Big budgets, very very much around and the budget's being built around the value of design, and being very convincing about that, and ultimately world-changing solutions. So that was an inspiration. It was kind of like, I kept getting green lights there. I'd be like, what if we tried this crazy idea? Yep, why not? What if we asked for X millions of dollars for doing this kind of design? Sure, Dan, go for it. It was just, it was gutsy. And that was Hartmut Esslinger. That was working with him was that way.
Did they ever say no to your ideas?
What's that?
Did they ever say no to anything radical that you asked for?
Well, I mean, sure, clients would often say no, but I think we were given maybe a little more carte blanche than we deserved at times,
Yeah.
partly because Frog was getting a name for being like, oh, if you're going to go to that firm, you're going to be given something exciting or pretty extraordinary. There was an expectation there. So, when you've got a client that comes in with expectations, then we got more yeses than we got nos.
Yeah. Sounds like you weren't, but as a consultant in that agency, you were empowered to ask questions and go for it. Whereas I think what I see with a lot of smaller, less confident agencies and professional services is that they can often fall into the trap of like limiting beliefs, and oh no, we can't ask that, or we can't ask for that much because the client will say no, or but like what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no, and well, that's fine.
And that's pretty much my attitude.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I think that's why I just kind of like fit right into Frog. As soon as I got there, it was like, oh yeah, this is the firm for me.
Mm.
It felt very right in many different ways, and that's what you want as you build a design career. You want to feel like you are being listened to. You're able to fully actualize on your design visions. That's what designers want in almost every job. You want to be able to actualize on your vision. And designers hate being told, no, that won't work, or that's not attractive, or that's not possible. Man, you tell me, even today, you tell me that's not possible. Really?
Yeah.
I'll show you. That fires me up. Because it should. That's the meat of creativity. That's what it's all about. Like, otherwise, why innovate? Why say that you innovate if you're not really going to innovate? Too many designers and corporations like to talk about innovation, but
Mm.
they don't really do
They're just
it.
iterating. Yeah.
That's one of the beautiful things about being an independent consultant. It's like we can be a little crazy. We can be really brave. We can propose the nuttiest ideas. Of course, they're not, a lot of times they're backed up with research and
Hmm.
lots of reasoning and rationale. But we're not afraid to try something really different, really new,
Hmm.
and especially if it's called for. And
Yeah.
I've found in my career that if you're just very genuine and knowledgeable, and there's lots of content behind your maybe it's even wild innovation, your client will listen.
Yeah.
But it has to be backed up. It can't just be raw confidence. But if you have all of that competence and you join it with confidence, man, you can move
Hmm.
mountains as a consultant.
Massively. Yeah. And I think, I've had this conversation a few times this week as well. If you kind of, you shoot for the stars, or you propose something that is so radical or so wild, the client might not take on the the first idea, but where you end up is still a way past where their comfort zone might have been, and you
Sure.
end up with something that's still kind of revolutionary, but not as radical as as the client, and you kind of stretching those boundaries, stretching the innovation. It's like with concept cars. It's like they'll never be made. They look cool, but then some of those features end up in production cars, and I love that. I think it's really interesting.
Yes, very true. It
Yeah,
creates pull.
yeah,
The crazier ideas they do that it pulls, it lifts, it attracts
mm,
through its inspiration, and that lifting effect that it has does bring up maybe the right solution into an even better place.
yeah. So you were at Frog for about 10 years, I think, before
Yeah,
setting up
exactly 10
Whipsaw.
years. Yeah.
So what prompted the move to start your own studio after all that time, and how did that come about?
Oh, you know what? That feeling of wanting my own firm, I had had for a long time. It was a feeling I had when I was in design school. I
Okay.
was like, I'm going to eventually have my own firm. But, and I suppose, I could have started a firm earlier, but I really felt like I wanted to see what the world was about, the world of design, to work with other great designers and just really learn. I want to just really learn and
Hmm.
build my craft. I just had so much fun at Frog that 10 years just kind of seemed to fly by.
Yeah.
But Frog was evolving. Frog at that time in the late '90s, Frog was moving much more toward digital.
Hmm.
They were doing more work called we were calling it new media at the time. That new media was technology, designing websites. Apps weren't even a thing yet,
Hmm.
but designing products that were driven by the internet mostly and software. So that at that time just wasn't my interest. I have always felt that, and well, industrial design is my first, my love. And Frog was changing. It was growing. It was becoming a little bit more. Oh, I don't know. It got to the point. It was interesting when I first joined in California. Frog had maybe, gosh, we were small, 15 people,
Hmm.
and I mean it was an absolute rush. But because of our success, we just started to grow.
Hmm.
The team started to break up a little bit. It was harder to manage everybody, and it lost some of its mojo. I felt,
Hmm.
but the change ended up. I think in the end, I depends on whose viewpoint it is, but they grew, they moved in a different direction, and they're thriving now. I think they're still doing well, and it's an amazing brand.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I have I still have a very good relationship with Hartman and Patricia, and I really respect them, what they've done. And I just did a podcast interviewing Hartman. He doesn't grant interviews very often. I basically just gave him the microphone
Yeah.
to talk about things that he cares about. He cares about a lot of different things, and yeah, I was really happy that he did that for us.
What's the podcast called?
Prism,
Prism.
yeah.
I'll make sure people check that out. That came up actually. One of my podcast guests this week mentioned it. I was trying to find it, but he couldn't recall the name. So it's definitely going on my listening list because
I've interviewed some really interesting people. I don't do this like you do, right? So I'm not as consistent with doing Prism, but my PR group wanted me to do this starting during the pandemic. She was like, Dan, I'm going to just get you out there and talk to these different people.
Mhm.
So I have enjoyed it. There's some great guests, and you can find it on Spotify. Prism, like the like a glass prism. My intention is
Yeah.
to expose one's kind of inner color.
I
People I
like
want
that.
to talk to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in terms of Whipsaw, then, so you've been going, quite some time, haven't you? It's
26 years.
yeah. How did you celebrate the 25th?
How what?
How did you celebrate your 25th year? I imagine that was a quarter of a
We
century.
had a blowout party. It was really
Yeah.
wonderful. I had some clients talk. We had some amazing people. It was at our studio. It was a real
Mhm.
celebration.
So you were talking before we click record about the space that you've got in the studio. Perhaps you could give us a verbal run through of the tell us the story about the space you have there.
Yeah, so we're in the area of San Francisco called Potrero Hill. And it's kind of a design district. There's a lot of different furniture stores around there. Um, so for when I got the company started, we wanted to be more in the southern part of Silicon Valley because
Hmm.
there weren't many design firms down there, but there were a lot of clients down there.
Hmm.
So in the early days, we had like, Cisco, Extreme Networks, Creative Labs, a division of General Dynamics that were making computers. And they were all down south. So it served us well to be in San Jose. And we all thought that San Jose would flourish, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It's still kind of just good old San Jose.
Hmm.
So we opened an office in San Francisco about eight, yeah, it was about 8 years ago, pre-pandemic. We had this really cool kind of very industrial space that was a ball bearing factory during World War
Okay.
II. But during the pandemic, both of those studios were empty. So we decided to close those two and then find one grand space, the ultimate design space. We did not want to compromise after the pandemic. So we wanted it to be easy to get to from the south, from the north, in this cultural hub of San Francisco. We wanted our own freestanding building
Hmm.
with a parking lot, which is a problem in San Francisco, and a
Right. Yeah.
garden because it's California, with lots of lights and a lot of space that we could create our own little micro environments within.
Hmm.
So we found it, and we now have a wonderful studio. Everybody loves coming here. It's very high ceilings and tons of light in the right location. We have different zones, little work zones that you can go and be very, very much by yourself. Or there's some areas that feel even more cozy than maybe your own living room or family room. And it's super collaborative. Sometimes it gets noisy, but that's okay. We kind of like this noise. So it's worked out really well. It seems to be the kind of one of the design centers of San Francisco now. And we're
That's
very
awesome.
giving in how we share the space. We have
Hmm.
all kinds of events and parties, and different organizations ask to be um, asked to use our studio to like host their special events. We always try to relate it to the design world in some way, but
Yeah.
we feel like, especially after the pandemic, when a lot of that design mojo in the community in San Francisco kind of started to wane, we wanted to bring that back. So we have great events, and it's great. We even have concerts.
Oh, awesome.
We have musical concerts that go on inside our space, which is really really cool.
Any bands that listeners might recognize?
Probably not. These are all little indie bands.
Yeah,
We give like young musicians opportunities to get an audience,
yeah,
and it's really fun. Really
that
fun.
sounds cool.
Yeah.
I was at Boston Dynamics last week, and one of my contacts has recently started there, and he gave me the tour. And in their town hall space, where their canteen and breakout spaces, they've got a stage as well, and they've got a few kind of Boston Dynamics kind of bands that rehearse and do shows for the staff. I just think I love that as a
Oh yeah,
as a
that's
musician
great.
myself. It's like that's cool. That's certainly given me something to think about for my 10-year plan with Kodu and Y Design. It's like house band, maybe. Yeah.
Neat. Yeah, cool. Do you play?
I do. I play guitar. I've been in bands for years, but I've recently joined about 18 months ago, joined a new wave band, kind of very 80s kind of inspired
Oh,
band. And I used to play kind of rhythm guitar, and I was the front man in my previous bands, but this one I've just joined as a secondary guitarist and synth player, and I love it. I love just the vibe and just contributing to the whole. And the theme music for the podcast is actually instrumental from our first single. So it's a blatant plug there if anyone wants to check out Glass Ghosts.
oh, how fun!
Yeah, it's good fun. I love it. It's very different to the kind of music that I used to do, like indie rock, kind of radio friendly music. I'm a big fan of Green Day and Weezer and bands like that. And
Okay, yeah, sure.
but this is like very much different. Like very synth heavy, very kind of intricate guitar. Um, a bit like The Cure and bands like that. And
Oh, all right.
I just love it. It's good fun. Just flexing the creative muscles. That's my creative outlet.
I think it's important for everybody to have a creative outlet.
Yeah.
You would think that I would get enough creative outlets with what I do for a living, but I also play the guitar and try to write songs. I really do enjoy that, especially
Yeah.
writing melodies. Um, I like acoustic guitars. I've got a
Fantastic. Yeah.
whole bunch of those, and then I also paint. Um,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, it's a really great outlet where I don't have to listen to any client except my own inner soul.
It's just play, isn't it? It's just I write my own music, and I don't do it as much as I would like. But like recently, I like kind of learning new bits of theory, and like I'll watch a lot of YouTube videos and kind of people writing songs, and then I'll kind of like, how could I use that bit of theory or that technique, and then start playing around with it, and then before you know it, the structure of songs come out, and then I'll take a day off and go and do my stuff, and then I'll be thinking about how the song could come together, and I'll go back to it and I'll finish it off, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's really really satisfying.
Okay.
Hey guys, just a quick one from me and then we'll get straight back to the episode. If you've ever felt like your pipeline is keeping you up at night, or you're not quite sure where to go next in your design career, and what you really want is to feel more in control of your business, your pipeline, your next move, maybe even be the person your peers or competitors look to and think, they're onto something, then check out the Y Design community. It's full of founders, leaders, engineers and designers working in hardware and physical product development. We share insights, run online and in-person meetups, collaborate on projects and help each other figure out what's working and what's not. If that sounds useful, head over to teamkodu.com/events to sign up. It's free, low pressure and genuinely made for people like you. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
So you are experiencing a lot of what designers experience when you are writing songs. It's a little bit like the design process I have
Yeah.
found. And, it's a lot about preconceptions. You're thinking about something, you might have a notion, a feeling that you might want to bring forward. You might not be able to identify it. It might just be kind of some inner kind of yearning about something. And I love that particular moment when you don't really know what you're going to be doing with your design or your song. You just feel something. You feel this need, and your intuition tells you to move forward and start experimenting. And you play certain notes or chords and start building combinations. The same way that when you're sketching or building your CAD file, you're experimenting. And at each step, there are effects that you are producing.
Yeah.
There's the result, the thing that you are actually creating is making you feel something. And there is an urgency in that. We're talking about urgency. I think it's really important to answer a creative call with urgency, especially when you feel it. A lot of songwriters feel that they can't stop, they can't sleep, they won't eat until it's there. And I get that way when I'm solving a design problem. I get very overtaken by it in a lot of ways. It's almost obsessive.
Yeah. And it's not something you can just switch on either. When I've tried to sit down and I've got to write a song, it's like it feels really like work.
Yeah.
But when something inspires you, it's quite often either like a lyric running through my head in the shower. Or when I'm driving, and then I have to record it like on my phone, and then that's the start. That's the seed then, and then you start playing. And like a few weekends ago, I was playing around with this song, and it was getting quite heavy, in terms of the overdriven guitar at the core of the song, and it was kind of palm muted, and it was kind of a bit punky, and it was fun, but I couldn't see where it was going to go. I couldn't hear it in my head. I couldn't hear a melody kind of forming, and then I went out for the next day with my fiance, and when I was driving, I thought, what if I just take the kind of the chugging kind of the palm mute guitar out and swap it for synth? What if I just make the bass line a lot simpler? So that's what I did when I got home. I just went straight on it, exact same chords, but I played them on the synth and then swapped the bass out. And I thought, I wonder what happens if I put a disco beat instead of a rock
There you
beat.
go.
Also, I've got this really catchy kind of disco, kind of indie disco song. Still got guitar in it on either side, but the synth at the core, and it's like a completely different vibe. And then it was just at like the next few hours, I just finished the song off, and like really, really satisfying. I love it.
The satisfaction one gets from that process. Same in design. It is truly one of the best parts of being alive. When you're creating.
Yeah.
But what you said about, like maybe sometimes something strikes you in the shower, the good old proverbial light bulb going off, when you're sitting on the toilet, there's a lot of truth in that. I think it's important to be able to like freeze those moments. But there's also another side, the other side of design. There's just sides to everything. And that relates even to the word whipsaw. This two-handled, two-person saw, which balances the kind of like these more romantic and classical or art and science. There's also the more disciplined scientific side of design, which you can sit down and say, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I'm going to solve a particular problem. There is design rigor, and you need to sit down and just figure stuff out.
Yeah.
By just using good reasoning and understanding about functionality and taking the time to detail things right. A lot of designers think maybe it's just about, or people that maybe don't know that much about the design process think, well, all these designers are just these talented guys. And they sit down and they draw this thing out and they get paid too much money for just having this. They're born with this gift. It's really not that way. I mean, there are some things you're more intuitive about than maybe most people when it comes to solving problems. But it's also the detailing. It's the hard work of trial and error
Mhm.
and working out the nuts and bolts of problems. And at least if you're doing industrial design, there is a lot of hard work to be done on almost
Mhm.
every product to make sure that it will function for a long period of time, it will be durable, it will last, it will be efficient
Mhm.
from the moment it is manufactured. So yeah, there's that side too, which is also very satisfying because then you know you've
Absolutely.
done when you do that right, that feels good too. It's not just that moment of creation, that
Mhm.
fleeting moment of
Yeah,
creation.
I think a lot of people mistake kind of rigor and process for kind of a lack of creativity, but actually, it's just creating structure and making sure you're kind of you, you're not you're not missing anything out, but it still leaves you loads of space to daydream
Oh, you
and
got
think.
this. And these creative elements must always remain interwoven when you're solving the problems, when you are going through the more pragmatic side of solving a problem. Always weave in what else can I do?
Mhm.
Has anybody tried it like this before? What if I use this material? Let's try that. Always be creative. You can be creative with the design of a bolt. I mean, no matter what, I find it
Yeah.
like creativity has no limits. That's what's misunderstood
Mhm.
about creativity. Some people think it's something you turn on and off when you need it. But to me, creativity is more a way of life. It's
Mhm.
the way you view the world. And I think if more people would consider just creativity in general and weave it into like everything that you do, I think that would make us all better parents,
Mhm.
better people. Um, just solve your own problems in ways other than just getting on Amazon and buying a little doodad. Because, so many things that are conceived by designers and engineers, they're not really necessary. I mean,
Mhm.
let's face it, there's a lot of dubious products out there. It's like, wait a minute, what? You need what kind of peeler? Come on. Just get a good knife and
Yeah.
enjoy the process because everybody's gotten so darn lazy.
Mhm.
I think
Absolutely.
just engagement in one's present moment, engagement with the objects that we surround ourselves with, more engagement with the people that you like or love in your life. And when industrial designers can respect those very precious moments like that, then they're gifting. You're not just creating things for commerce, you're creating things for gifting. That's
Absolutely.
a different frame of mind, a very important one, I think.
Mhm.
And we
Talking
all know
about
what that means. It might be how people say, like, well, how many friends do you really have? And like you can count them
yeah,
on one hand. You can say the same about maybe your favorite products in your own life that
yeah,
industrial designers have created. Think about how many products you have in your life. If you counted them up, it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
hmm
There was a book that came out about 15 years ago. I forget the name of this book, but they asked families around the world to bring this photographer asked families to bring everything that they own and put it in their front yard. Every piece of furniture, every single book, toaster, every single thing that you own, your
yeah.
car, put it in your front yard. And then he took pictures of this. I got to find this book. It's very cool. Now, of course, the American front yards were just chock full, it's all
Yeah.
stupid shit, you know. And it was really fascinating to see these different cultures and what they actually had in their front yard. Like compare
Yeah.
the, like Americans to Swiss, to Vietnamese, to Uzbekistan. Like really, like everything changed. The objects, the type of objects, the colors, and
Yeah.
the materials, it all changed. It kind of said it all, right? But at the end of the day, those the things that really matter to you, those maybe again that single hand full
Hmm.
of products, you can probably bring down like what your like five friends. You can probably very easily say, well, these products, these are the five things that I really enjoy the most. It might be the simplest of things. It might not be a simple thing. It might be your car. And if you really think about like why do I really like these things? Well, they say something about your own identity. You feel an intrinsic attraction to something, often because of the way it looks or the way it's made, the way the sounds that it makes,
Hmm.
the pleasure it gives you when actually using it, especially when the design during the use of that product, the design itself, the more traditional definition of design, maybe the way it looks, kind of is no longer important. Like I'm sitting in this Aeron chair right now. I don't
Hmm.
think I'm not. I don't care what it looks like. It's comfortable.
Just feels good.
That's all I
Yeah.
care about, right? At that moment of use. Well, these are the things that create this connection that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And one realizes quickly that, man, you really just don't need that many things in your world to make you happy. It's not just about these things. And I think it's important for industrial designers to be very aware of these facts when you're designing anything. To build in those values of goodness that are lasting, that are really meaningful, that that provide the kind of like prominent connections that end up being deserving of being one of those five things.
Yeah. Maybe put you on the spot here, but your catalog of products that you've developed over the decades, is quite extensive, quite really really impressive. Could you kind of are there a top five projects that you look back on, or indeed kind of products that you interact with, like your chair, like you just said, that make it into the top five?
Sure, yeah, you are putting me on the spot because I want to represent all my clients.
Well, that's yeah. I imagine that's
No,
a fairly contentious question.
yeah. Um, wow, let's see. Well, okay, let's start with the chair. I really, a few years ago, just decided to like design something without technology. I
Hmm.
wanted to just use hardwoods and design a beautiful chair that was made in a very different way. And I call it Scrolla. Now, we manufacture and sell these. It's a lounge chair. It comes in teak and walnut and oak. It's comfortable. It's very unique in its appearance. And that has these kind of like timeless qualities that I was just talking about. Um, I live with it, and we have them in our office as well. So it has those qualities. Um, a lot of people have enjoyed the tonal strength training system
Yeah.
that we helped to invent and define. Mostly because it's like that's kind of like the opposite of Scrolla. This uses technology. This uses an electric motor instead of weights to
Hmm.
provide resistance, and there's software that's controlling that electric motor. So when you're working out with it, it's like driving an electric car, for example.
Okay.
It's very smooth.
Yeah. Hmm.
You're pulling against a motor, and it's because it's software controlled. You can do all kinds of these remarkable things. It can spot you. It
Okay.
can increase the resistance pressure when your muscles are being extended out, not
Hmm.
only being compressed, but extended out. And that's where you have more gain in a workout. So for a lot of these reasons, and the way that that all came together and it bolts onto your wall. I like that one. I think that's a good example of that.
Hmm.
Um, we, I like working on these housewares products. You know, we did
Hmm.
like the Brita Stream, the Awala bottle, which I mentioned, and the
Hmm.
Adiri baby bottles, and those all kind of that would be. I would collectively put those together
Yeah.
as to like the way that we consume liquid, whether it's a baby or an adult.
Hmm.
We we gave that a lot of thought and created unique solutions that made people very happy, and it helps with one's hydration and general nutrition. Um, Gosh, you know, all the recent things are on my mind. So, like
Yeah.
doing the first robotic massage system for Escape, spelled AE, Escape, was a feat of design and engineering, to say the least. I mean, you lay down on this thing and you think at first, "Oh my God, it's a robot giving me a massage." It's wonderful. It's
Really.
wonderful. It's smooth. It's repeatable. You don't have small talk with it. It will never sneeze on you. It's cool. I mean, if you like technology, boy, you know you'd love this thing. And we designed it with, oh gosh, kind of the opposite of what you'd think.
Mm.
It's not overly teched out. It's, you know, it has like this brown leather, and it's faux leather, and
Okay. Yeah.
it looks like Italian furniture. It's
Mm.
just, and it's a multi-sensory drop-in experience where you are just taken away to a different world. It's pretty lovely. And you know, our ancient ritual sauna is like that too.
Mm.
It's this solitary sauna that we designed, and it has this.
Okay.
Well, it's, you know, this whole wellness category is expanding. I'm
Hmm.
happy about that. We designed it during the pandemic, and where when we were really all seeking meaning in our products and
Hmm.
questioning, what does quality of life mean? What does quality of product mean? And we just wanted to create an otherworldly experience for someone.
Mm.
You know, that was, it was a sauna, but it's also a bit of a light experience. It's super comfortable. It has like a lounge chair inside it. It almost feels like you're like on the equator
Okay.
because the
So
heat,
humid. Yeah.
but while you're looking at the northern lights, because there's like this beautiful like cascade of lights on the walls of this thing. And
Oh,
it's
cool.
for one person. It's small. It's
Yeah.
like you're in a little chamber. But because we built in this light horizon, it feels
Yeah.
like you're sitting in this vast plain.
So it doesn't feel claustrophobic then.
No, not at all. Not at
Oh
all.
wow.
You
That's
know,
amazing.
every project has been just, they're all so much fun to work on.
Yeah.
Chris, you know, where I like to call out five of them. I don't even know. Now I'm rolling on and on here. They're just, I had fun designing this piano recently called Raven Chord. It's an all acoustic piano. And it was just, uh, literally, it was inspired by me listening to some classical music and visualizing every instrument in the orchestra
Mm.
while I was listening, and realizing that the piano is maybe the ugliest instrument because, unlike a harp that very much exposes the way it works and therefore makes a contribution to how you feel about the music,
Hmm.
or even a timpani drum or a violin or an oboe, you see how it works. And then
Yeah.
you look at the piano and you look at this black box, all the cool stuff, you can't see it.
Hmm.
Right? And then there's this big apology. Oh, we have to open the lid because the sound is going up and down. So we put this lid on there so the sound has to bounce off of that. That didn't make any sense to me. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was the inspiration for. I was listening to this on a flight actually, and started to sketch and created Raven Chord like on the spot. And that's what I meant about like when creative inspiration hits you,
Mm.
you have to answer, like you were doing in the shower with your song.
Yeah.
So I
That's
mean, these are
awesome.
some of the things that have meaning to me.
Hmm.
Um,
And when you think back um, over your career, you know, whether it's products or people or anything else, you know, what have you learned, about running a studio that kind of you wish you'd known early on?
Prior to founding Whipsaw, I had some really great experiences. So I had learned a lot, which I suppose is a real benefit, um, not only with, having met a lot of people that would soon become my clients, but, I had learned a lot of the mistakes, the potential mistakes already. So I don't really have any like, big aha, like revelations now about what I would have done different in the beginning. I think so I don't have any regrets. I've always stayed true to what I believe in
Hmm.
and focused on doing the best work we knew how to do, and made sure that the team that I was building, we had this shared purpose. While we were all very different, and I love working with different kinds of designers, that always gives us more depth,
Hmm.
like hiring people from all around the world. I think where some firms go wrong is they think maybe they want to start a design firm so that they can make more money because they
Hmm.
now have more control, or they feel like they want to have more variety, but
Hmm.
then they might get overwhelmed with what actually happens when you have that much variety. You can lose your focus if you're not careful. But I was kind of already aware of that when founding Whipsaw, when really getting into it. I kind of knew
Hmm.
what I wanted to do. So that's, I suppose, why I don't have any. So what advice would I give I think the advice that I would give myself maybe applies more to when I was 20, 25 years old.
Yeah.
Um, when I had a vision that was maybe more individualistic. I was recently asked what kind of inspiration did I have early on, and I answered by saying, "Well, I remember reading The Fountainhead, and the main character, Howard Rourke, this very individualistic and uncompromising young architect. Um, he was doing everything by himself, and I realized the advice I would have given myself is expand your horizon. Realize that there are so many people that you're going to enjoy working with that are going to be better at some things than you. And you will have so much more influence in the world the way that you want when you open your arms to the way other people think as well."
Mm.
I think that's really important advice. That when you realize that design, especially if you want to do thoughtful industrial design that gets mass produced, that goes out into the world and really does influence lives in a good way. If you really want to do that, that
Hmm.
it's you have to start thinking about collaboration and people, and how can you not just be inspired but to inspire others. Like, learn how to inspire others, and always stay very, very true to your beliefs. You don't have to sell out. Don't sell out. A lot of musicians sell out. I don't know what happens to so many musicians. Yeah, they do this amazing work when they're 25, and then you listen to them now and like, oh man, you just haven't produced a hit in a long time. But design certainly doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, we have a lot of young designers and engineers listen to the podcast. We have a lot of, kind of young entrepreneurs, I suppose, studio leaders or kind of design leaders within kind of in-house teams that, if you had any advice for those listening, that might be, you know, inspirational for them that kind of you
Sure.
you might have benefited from earlier on in your career, just to give you it doesn't have to be kind of massive, but just that one thing that you found has
Um,
been most important kind of to you.
yeah, there's a lot of things we could talk about. Yeah, in that regard. So I'll hit upon a couple of ones that I think really are most meaningful to me.
Hmm.
One is to trust your instincts as a designer. There really are too many external influences that are around us all the time.
Yeah.
Um, I think you need to stay insanely curious about the world around you, almost with like childlike wonder.
Hmm.
I always let the kind of like the strange idiosyncratic things inspire me.
Hmm.
I think there's gold in there. Um, I I don't like to become too um, cynical.
Hmm.
It usually doesn't help you as a designer to
No.
become too cynical or even complacent
Hmm.
about creativity. I think it's important to always look beyond yourself to go beyond.
Hmm.
Um, it's super important to not think that there's a formula in design. There is no formula. Maybe you have a way, maybe you have a process that you can
Yeah.
connect with and you're good at and it works for you, but don't become formulaic about it.
Hmm.
Basically, in short, I think you have to always cultivate your inspiration, and it doesn't matter where you get it from. Like for me, just like walking around an old Italian village inspires me. Looking at how architects solved a problem many hundreds of years ago
Yeah.
inspires me. Um, Looking at paintings that were done in 1850 inspire me, or especially works from the 50s, a New York school of abstract expressionism. It just
Hmm.
really ignites something within me. And it's the design thing that ignites me. It doesn't have to be I don't like look at other industrial designers' work and get overly inspired sometimes. Sometimes I do, of course.
Yeah.
There's great design that's happening around the world. Um, I think you have to have almost a gritty determination
Hmm.
to be a good designer. You have to be able to go very, very deep into your solution. You've heard the God and the devil are in the details, and I've definitely
Yeah.
found that to be true.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've experienced the greatest joys of discovery. I've also experienced agony trying to solve certain design problems that were resisting um, almost every attempt. But you can never give up. Too many designers will be satisfied, like, okay, I think it's there. I think our they call plan of record poor. Sometimes people say, well, the plan of record is good enough. The POR, we're there. And I just have this, I don't know, I just want to tell some designers and even clients, like, no, we're not there yet. It can be better. I can't tell you enough about how many things that we have created that I've been involved in where we just took it another step and then
Yeah.
another step. That's what I mean by gritty determination.
Hmm.
Another piece of advice for designers is to be more clear. Designers
Okay.
are being creative people. Sometimes they're pretty wishy-washy. I think clarity in general is very important. I'm talking about communication, verbal
Hmm.
communication, having a clear idea of your concept. It's okay to have a blurry idea of your concept in the beginning, but bring clarity to it. That's part of what design is about. You are establishing clarity. Find a very clear purpose. Make sure that there is clarity and meaning in what you're doing. And then, especially as creative people that are all right brainers, learn a new communication modality that left brainers understand. Because a lot of times your client is going to be a left brainer,
Hmm.
whether it's a CEO of a company, maybe an engineering team, maybe the marketing team, but they're going to want like lots of linear thinking. There's an expectation for that.
Yeah.
As a designer, you don't think that way. A lot of times you're scatterbrained. I can tell you that because I'm one. I'm speaking from experience, but I have learned that I can take some of these very nonlinear, very um, fragmented ideas, you funnel it and make a statement about what you're trying to do
Hmm.
with such clarity that people understand it. That's a lot of the success that I have had is a lot of that. It's the communication of what we're actually trying to do as a design team and why, and placing it in terms that bean counters can understand, and engineers can understand and respect.
Hmm.
Learning to speak their language. It's like learning other languages, and you have to do it if you want to, especially as a consultant.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got you could have the best product or solution in the world, but if the story isn't in the right language or the right medium for the audience, it's not going to get through. It's
Yeah. And
yeah,
then lastly, I think it's important to kind of take yourself as a creator kind of out of your own frame of mind. In other words, try to, when you're solving a design problem, especially,
hmm,
I find it's helpful to sort of just diminish the self, and it allows you to watch and listen to your subject with almost like a meditative awareness. And
hmm,
if you're not thinking about yourself, what you're trying to achieve, blending in your own ego into, what are people going to expect that I'm going to produce? Remove all that crap.
hmm,
Just focus on the subject. And the subject is the problem. It's the context of the problem, and it's the user. Like, what are they feeling? What are they going through? And then through this diminishment of the self, and you start to internalize your subject a lot
hmm,
faster and more naturally. You're removing all that other stuff, and so all of a sudden you realize these truths that you've been seeking are suddenly presented to you like opportunities, and they
yeah,
bubble up and then just sort of pop in your imagination. You're like, oh, we could do that. I think that's really important. And I think design is all, you're seeking transcendence. That's
hmm,
what you're after. You're trying to create, yes, you're trying to create like successful products, right? That's, like go back to Raymond Loewy's time during the Depression. They were hiring Raymond saying, help us sell more refrigerators and pencil sharpeners and trains. So, okay, I'm going to make them more beautiful. I don't really agree with that. I mean, yes, there's commerce. This is
hmm,
you're helping economies doing what you're doing. You're fueling this construct we call capitalism and consumerism with really good design. But to me, design goes way beyond that. Design is I think it's more divine than that. I think you should be seeking transcendence in what you're doing, even if it's a little thing. We did the tile line of trackers,
yeah,
and just that little thing, that little piece of electronic. We were
hmm,
seeking transcendence in that little thing. And so when you really look at that thing, put that in your hand, this newest generation that we just did, and it's just a lovely little thing. And think about it. It's in your pocket. It's on all your most valued objects. That's where its context of use is.
yeah,
So we felt it kind of deserved transcendence or something, something
hmm,
important, something good.
yeah.
So
Something
anyway,
kind of functional
I
doesn't
hope
mean
these
it
are
can't be
some
beautiful.
pointers that your listeners can make use of, because to me these are a lot of the things that make a difference.
Yeah, massively. I think there's throughout our conversation today, there's going to be so much that people can take away and reflect on and action in their kind of careers and in their businesses. So yeah, that's really useful. We're rapidly running out of time, Dan. I could sit and talk to you for hours, and you did warn me that this would happen, when we prep. But I think I'd just like to round it off by kind of asking you kind of what are you most excited about kind of for the year ahead for Whipsaw or for the industry? Um, yeah, perhaps you could kind of give us some insight into
Yeah.
the future.
Well, this would not be a proper podcast if I didn't talk about AI.
Yeah,
Um, I am both scared to death of and also super excited about AI.
yeah,
It will, without a doubt, replace design jobs. It's already happening. It will, I would guess that it's going to take over 50% of the design jobs within about 10 years from now, maybe less, maybe more like 5 years. It's very concerning. But you know what? It's also, we're starting to use it more and more, especially in the early scaffolding of projects, like when
hmm,
you might want to create like an environment that you think your product is going to be used in that you're not that familiar with.
Yeah.
We end up doing a lot of projects for really interesting vertical markets that we are not users and we don't have
Yeah.
easy access to understand them. And this might be like, whether it's, let's take like the construction industry, for example, where we're
Yeah.
not allowed to be on the top of a skyscraper, but we're
Mm-hmm.
designing a robot for use in the construction field. And we'll create an AI environment where designers can be there
Mm-hmm.
artificially to understand it. Um, we're using more VR as well, combined with AI. So we
Cool.
are like in our designs. And so there's maybe an earlier connection with the realities of the
Yeah.
problem that you're facing by using AI. And that's how we're using it pretty
That's
effectively.
pretty cool.
We're not
Yeah.
relying on it to design products.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks at that. I'm excited by a whole bunch of projects in the healthcare industry and the wellness field that we touched upon briefly, where design is very important. We do a lot of like diagnostic, therapeutic, wearables, and even surgical products
Mm-hmm.
that are fascinating to work on. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about us getting more into the furniture world. We're doing more and
Okay.
more furniture. That's fun. Um, I am at the same time very concerned about things that I can't control, um, geopolitical things that are driving me nuts. I can't stand what's going on with tariffs and people talking about tariffs like it's going to help us. No, it won't. It never will. Makes no sense. Oh, that's frustrating. We should be doing, and at least this country, we should be just much more thoughtful. We should like sit down and shut up and really provide, I think, well, just generally more compassion for
Mm-hmm.
the world and look at all of the parts of the world that could really use our creativity or and what the United States has built over
Mm-hmm.
so many centuries. It's kind of embarrassing what's going on right now.
It's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
It's a big mess, and we're creating our own mess. And well, we all know who is causing it.
Yeah.
But as it affects me as a designer, a lot of our clients are very concerned. They've pulled back
Yeah.
production because they don't know how to produce anymore. They can't add a kind of margin on top of what they already sell their product for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are about to produce some of our own products.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
most excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we are faced now with the same problem that a lot of our clients are. It's like, where are we going to manufacture this? That
Yeah.
we were intending to produce these things in China because we have so many different relationships with different OEMs there.
Yeah.
Great factories, great capabilities, super high quality.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, are we going to be able to add, 100% and more tariffs on top of that?
But who knows? I think it's the uncertainty that is what. Obviously, the tariff is a problem, but it's just the uncertainty of what is the tariff going to be. Whether
Well,
is it
there's that.
100%,
That too.
140.
Just the uncertainty
Yeah,
hurts economies. So
because
yeah,
you can't plan, can you?
there are a lot of things that I am excited about, but I'm also really, really concerned about.
Yeah.
And consulting is not getting any easier. There's
I was
too
with
many.
a sorry, I was with a business on Monday who are manufacturing in the US. They've got a supplier that's making their plastic housings for their product. That company's experience has been in more fire alarms, kind of infrastructural kind of projects. I mean, I'm looking at one here. It's funny how you see those things when they spot them out, and what their standard of what good is in terms of the quality, the mold, and their acceptance of like defects and tolerances for a smoke alarm or a fire alarm. It's still functional. It's not beautiful compared to this being a consumer product. You know, um, it's a re-education. Like the potentially got the ability to do it, but their issue was the re-education of what good looks like and the standards of kind of quality, the wall thickness and all those little details that supplier it doesn't matter for their other products, but for this consumer product, it's like, well, we do care about the bevel there, or we do care about the wall thickness there,
Yeah,
and the feel and that sharp edge,
sure.
and that's going to take a lot of time to get right in kind of factories that just aren't used to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
we've been left in the dust when it
Yeah.
comes to that. But it's okay. I think Americans need to just embrace the idea that we're really good at a lot of other things. Like, my goodness, we don't have to be mass producing plastic clamshell housings of products. No, let other countries that are really good at this do that. Let them do
Yeah.
that. So yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding and ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
That's frustrating, and that doesn't help the world of consulting. It doesn't help that a lot of, maybe in marketing especially, a lot of people have taken design thinking courses and they think they know a lot about design. But design is like a culture, and it has a vernacular. There's a depth, such a depth to it. It should never be commoditized. And yet I see it happening. And it doesn't help that so many things can be manufactured relatively quickly and easily. So people have an idea. Well, okay, I just want to go make this thing. And they don't really consider it. And so you have a lot of mediocre goods on the market that are not well designed. So yeah, I'm seeing that. So I'm becoming a little bit cynical in that regard.
But
So
going back to
much.
your point, just you must avoid that.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I do, but it's okay to be cynical about these things as long as they inspire you to go fix it, right? Or to never
Absolutely.
contribute to that malaise. Don't contribute to it. Don't do shitty products.
Yeah.
And I tell our clients that. Even if they say, hey, Dan, can't you just maybe we'll pay you half as much and you give us half of a design, like do it
Yeah.
quicker and don't do quite as good of a job that you normally would. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. So no, get out of here.
No. Yeah.
It's
Love
true.
that.
I've been
Well,
asked so many times.
it's been amazing talking to you, Dan. As always, I have got a dash for another meeting now, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. But I'm really looking forward to this airing. I'm really looking forward to the feedback that we get from kind of the listeners and the people who watch it. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh,
I'm
you're
really
very
looking
welcome.
forward to catching up.
I really enjoyed talking to you. You had great questions, and I liked the conversational nature of this. So I personally enjoyed it. So thanks for the invitation, Chris.
That's the main thing. You're more than welcome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Why Design, proudly powered by Kodu. If you got something out of today's conversation, I'd love it if you could leave a quick review or share the episode with someone who will find it useful. It really helps more people discover the show. And if you're working in hardware or physical product development, whether you're a founder, leader, engineer or designer, come and join the Why Design community. We're running events, sharing insights and connecting people who are building great things. You can sign up at teamkodu.com/events or just drop me a note on LinkedIn. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.